You know what? I've grown really sick and tired of Eve recently. Not a person called Eve or anything. The planet, obviously, the purple planet of Eve. If you guys have been a subscriber to my channel for any length of time and you've actually seen my 2 missions to Eve, you'll know that there has been a considerable lack of endings to them. That is because, of course, because Eve is such a complex planet to land on and take off from, I decided to just give up because I just didn't have the motivation or the patience or indeed the craft to actually take off from that darn planet. And so as a result, me and the planet Eve have kind of formed somewhat of an enemy sort of status at the moment. But today I'm trying to rectify that with a sort of compromise. I am finally going to be landing on Eve in this video today. I'm not going to be landing a Kerbal though because, well, let's be honest, in real life Kerbals probably wouldn't be able to survive on the surface of Eve just because of the intense gravity and the very, very high atmospheric pressure that's there. Instead, we are of course sending a rover. This is known as the Manned Robotics Light Eve Exploration Vehicle, I think. The Manned Robotics Light Eve Roving Vehicle, that's it, otherwise known by the engineers as Mr. L.E.R.V. This is, of course, going to Eve, and we're going to there to sort of discover the geology of Eve, because it's something we can't really see in the beautiful mod pack that I have installed, the beautiful beautification mod. We can't really see the surface of Eve. We want to find out what it is actually like there, because we don't know what the geology might be like. But of course, I managed to mess up the phase angle massively, and so I cut out all of me going back to the space center and waiting for Eve to catch Kerbin up, to wait for this launch window, so that we could actually escape Kerbin's gravity. And you can see here, the thing turns so slowly. The rocket just turns so slowly at the moment, because we still have that massive booster attached. I am using another mod. I have included yet another mod with this video. It is only a very, very subtle one, and you probably missed it during the launch. It is, of course, the clamshell fairings mod. If you have ever seen a fairing deploy in Kerbal Space Program, you'll know it sort of deploys like, well, confetti really. It all just sort of disintegrates into small little pieces and everything just sort of explodes, and it can be very, very dangerous for your craft. This mod adds it into how a fairing functions in real life when it separates. It makes it so that the fairing separates into I think it's anywhere between 2 and like 5 or 6 sort of parts all at once, and sort of peels them back as sort of sections, and it looks a lot cooler. It's sort of like a petal sort of opening and falling away. I think it looks much cooler, and it is a lot safer for your craft because there's less chance a small piece of debris will come back and hit you in the face, which is always very, very nice. But you can see here I've skipped out a lot of the encounter stuff with Eve because it's so boring. That's the one thing I hate about missions to other planets or even the moon or like place satellites of Kerbin. It takes forever to adjust your inclination and actually get an encounter in the first place. And just because you're stuck in map view, it just takes so long and it's so boring, and it's just something that I don't enjoy watching. So I'm only showing you the bare bones bits of the encounter prep here, I suppose. We came in at an angle. It wasn't a brilliant trajectory, the one that we managed to get here, but it was the best one that I could kind of fathom from this. But it's fine. We're going to be trying to aim for land in the northern hemisphere anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can see here on the end, you can see we're going with a Curiosity style descent method, minus the sky crane obviously, so nothing like Curiosity at all really. But we're going down in a little landing capsule that will have some drogue chutes on it to slow it down, then 2 main chutes will deploy. Once those main chutes have deployed and we're about no more than a few kilometers above the surface of Eve, we will separate the fairing, we'll detach the heat shield, and the lander will deploy alongside with some parachutes on board that lander, on top of the rover, shall I say, and then the rover shall touch down on its wheels, hopefully at a slow enough speed that it will actually land safely and not break any of the wheels, and we will be golden. You can see here we're arriving at Eve now, getting ready to put ourselves into orbit, ready to try and find a place to descend. I tried to find land as best I could here, but with the clouds, it really is hard to try and find a landing site on Eve. Although I have noticed when you don't view the planet in map view and you are kind of close to the atmosphere or inside the atmosphere, the clouds do seem to disappear, which is always something quite nice to note if you are going for a mission to Eve. But yeah, this planet is hard, man. This is probably the hardest planet to go to, other than probably Jewel, in the Kerbal system, just because of its gravity. It doesn't take that much Delta V to get there and get into orbit, just because of its huge sort of size and gravity. Well, it's not too bad to actually get to and land on. It's getting out of it that's the problem. And you can see here we're now plotting. We're gonna tweak our inclination to make ourselves go our periaps go slightly more north than it is at the moment, just so that we can sort of get more over land than we were before. We want to aim sort of for a coastline, maybe, but land sort of on the edge. That's what I tried anyway, and I think we ended up doing pretty darn well, if you ask me. It's one of my better landings, shall we say. And you know my landings are not exactly brilliant, but well, the geological factors of Eve we wanted to study here. We want to know because through radar data we've gotten from various flybys of Eve, we've managed to determine that there are some pretty damn high peaks on Eve. But given the atmospheric pressure and given the gravity of Eve being much higher than Kerbin, technically these peaks should not be possible. If you've ever seen a planet like Venus, you'll know of things called pancake volcanoes. Now, pancake volcanoes are similar to shield volcanoes here on planet Earth, except because of the high atmospheric pressure on Venus, they're sort of squashed. It looks like someone sat on them. Which already adds to sort of the squat nature of a shield volcano anyway. This makes it even more squat and sort of cut off at the top, sort of like a plateau almost. And Eve, while it does have some of those, it does have some very, very tall peaks. But like I say, these peaks should technically not be possible with the gravity of Eve, because they would probably just simply collapse. And the atmospheric pressure would definitely not help with that as well. But yet they exist, so it's something that we are going to have to study once we are on the ground. But you can see here we're starting to scream through the atmosphere of Eve now. We're really starting to just bite the atmosphere right about now. Pardon me. This does actually take up quite a bit of a blater, actually, bearing in mind we have a 3.5 meter heat shield, but we ended up slowing down quite nicely, actually. This was quite a nice controlled descent. Clearly this capsule sort of design is a very, very good entry method. And I think, along with the Frontier mission I did to the Sun a couple of videos ago, I think the manned robotics rovers, which are these ones, I will call them different manned robotics something, for each body I land on, and the Frontier missions, I am planning to do more in the future. I forgot to mention that at some point in the new year, I want to try and land at least an unmanned probe on every single body in the Kerbal system at some point this year. That's my goal anyway. I don't know if I'll ever get around to doing it because I'm terrible with goals like that. But you can see here we're just about to finish re-entering Eve's atmosphere, and you can see the shockwaves slowing down, turning to Mach effects ever so gradually. And at this point I was kind of concerned because I thought we were over ocean. But as we start to descend through the clouds, you'll be able to see that this is most certainly not the case. We have landed pretty much in a perfect position. We're on top of one of the flatter. We are on some hills, which is good. However, they are some of those sort of pancake volcanoes that I was talking about a few minutes ago. They might not even be volcanoes, they might just be the result of geologic activity, but they certainly resemble that sort of shape. But you can see here the blue haze above the purple planet here. It is a really weird colour actually, purple for a planet. I'm not too sure because I'm not a chemist and I'm terrible at chemistry, but what chemicals have a purple precipitate or something? I'm not too sure. I will have to look that up at some point, but it is certainly a very interesting colour for a planet, and I'm not sure if that's even possible in real life. It probably isn't. But if it is, let me know in the comments down below, because that is genuinely interesting. But you can see here we're now deploying the rover. We've detached the heat shields. It's now on its parachutes, on its way on final descent towards the planet. At this point, I did actually get quite worried that the command phase was actually going to plonk down on top of us here, because obviously it's lighter and it's coming down, heavier, and it is coming down on parachutes. But you can see here it just slipping by. Hello, you're going on a trip down as well. Goodbye. yeah, that was kind of a lucky escape on my front, but we end up landing right next to it, and that can also serve as kind of a lander, I guess, for future missions. But you can see here we're coming down, and ever so gently touchdown. There we go. Mr. L.E.R.V is on the surface of Eve. And without further ado, it's time to get roving. We want to head over to that coastline because we want to know what Eve's oceans are made out of. Mr. L.E.R.V is a very, very strange rover. For some reason, the engineers decided to engineer him so that his controls were backwards. So that you have to press S to go forward and W to go backwards. And the steering was inverted as well. Engineering and mission control do state that this was most likely because they installed the probe core the wrong way round. And this is kind of a problem because we do have to descend this rather... It's not steep, but it's just a very, very long hill to the coastline. And as you can see, we broke one of the wheels. So we're going to try and drive this thing backwards. Or the right way, as it usually is called, because, well, the probe core's backwards because I'm an idiot when I build rovers. But you can see here we keep getting stuck because, well, I'm terrible at building rovers. And you can see the coastline just off on the horizon there. That's where we're trying to head. Although Mr. L.E.R.V is not exactly the best rover, even with all 6 wheels working. He's not very good. If any of you guys, any long-term subscribers back when I had like 50 subscribers, will probably remember Smithy. Mr. L.E.R.V is a very close relation to Smithy the rover. He is just incompetent. He's so incompetent. Look at him. Look at him rolling down the hill there with little to no care for what's going on. It's almost like he's going to break another wheel any minute or something. Yeah, because that would totally happen on a steep slope of a high gravity planet like Eve. This is kind of a terrible thing to do, actually. I don't recommend doing this on a mission. Driving a flimsy rover backwards on a 1.7G planet. Yeah, don't do it. This was very nerve-wracking, and this is all at 4 times normal speed as well. You could probably realise how bad this was when I was doing this at like 3-4 FPS tops, or maybe actually more than that, probably more like 10-20 FPS, because of these graphics mods really taking it out, because Eve is really not optimized with this one pack. Most of the planets are, however, Eve really isn't, because of all the particle effects and clouds and what have you. But you can see we broke yet another wheel because I am a careless driver and I was impatient. I just wanted to get over to the water because I just want to get there. I just want to analyze everything. But we indeed break a 3rd one any second now, and we end up beaching ourselves. But we'll be able to do some science data here shortly, and we'll be able to get some nice pictures and stuff like that. So it's not a complete and utter failure, and we managed to land on Eve, guys. So that's one planet ticked off for this year. If you did enjoy, remember to leave a like and of course subscribe. Shamrock Dawn will hopefully be out soon. I may just have to throw together some of the footage I've got at the moment though, guys. But if you did like this video, remember to like and subscribe for more. My name is Bradders, and as always, peace out.